Welcome back to Grandma Sim's Halloween special. I hope you were able to watch the first one where we did the graveyard up above. If you weren't, please go back and watch that one when you're done watching this one. So, this is going to be our underground lair. I wanted this lot to be two things that we could have here. One being the graveyard, which I am going to be using for my Very Veggie Let's Play for all of my 10 generations. And then I also thought that it would be good if we could use this for, you know, underground home, maybe zombie apocalypse, having to live down here. Of course, it's not off the grid or anything like that, but you can definitely do that. And I definitely wanted to make it feel like, grungy and, put together with old parts and pieces. This wasn't built brand new, this was built a little at a time. And over the years, things, accumulated. I also wanted it to be very secure. I am using that door there as like an airlock between, where you come in the cemetery, which is down here behind these headstones, down into this first area where it's kind of like this is what I'm doing here is I'm putting in the water pipes for water flow down into this area. So this area here, there's going to be, this is where the water will come in and get stored, for the kitchen and the shower and that type of situation. And this would all be rainwater because it would be coming in through the pipe, through the gutter pipe, downspout, gutter, something like that. And then over on the other side here, I'm putting the mechanical room. This is what makes things work. I'm just pulling out a whole lot of stuff. Eventually, we're going to get that all organized. Of course, cameras to keep it secure. We want to know who's on the other side of the airlock. Are they contaminated? Do we want to let them in? Type of situation. I did use the electrical and the hot water heater that actually works and does break down. You can always switch those out for the ones that don't, the ones that are just decorative and don't break down if you don't want to, fuss with fixing them. But I think that's part of the fun of it. This is an underground layer, and I think, having things, you're always probably having to fix things, and, nothing works all the time. So I thought it was good to use those. So that's what we're doing in this mechanical room. Lots of pipes and things going on. Um, I did use, and I don't normally use these, I always want to, but I use these heating vents. This is what's bringing heat from the mechanical room into the living quarters. You can see that one there in the middle actually has the vent where the heat comes out. And I kind of went with this. I didn't want to do a square area. I kind of went with this octagonal. That's sort of round, and it's gonna have a few different versions. In my head, I had one version, and then when I got down here and I was decorating it, that vision completely changed. So you'll see we're going to start out with the kitchen here. Just some old cupboards, maybe picked up around town. Um, Nothing new, nothing fancy, very grungy. But that kitchen where it's sitting now, that is definitely going to change. So here's the old phone, so you can, call in, permission to come in type of situation, and then you can look through the camera and see who it is. These floodlights I thought were very appropriate for this situation. Just putting down some old newspaper, probably, gets a little wet in that room because that's the water room per se. So this is where things are going to start changing a little bit. Really wanted to use this closet that you can actually go into. So I have it sitting over here to the side. So I really just wanted to figure out how to make that work in this situation. So this is when things start changing a little bit, or quite a bit, I should say. You can see I was playing around there with the location of the bed. I don't think that ends up being exactly like that. And I ended up making it bigger also. I wanted it small, and you wouldn't think you would build this big, huge, elaborate underground, but I think it was too small. So definitely had to make room. I want a sim to be able to live down here for sure. And so to have all of the things that the Sims require, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living, activities and things like that. I did have to make it a little bit bigger, and it becomes a different shape. So this now is going to be the storage area back here, and we're going to move the kitchen over towards it. So the storage area would be where your food stores are, where your other mechanical items, things for, tools and things. And I did put that, what do you call that? A utility closet or something? I did put that in there. I really wanted to use that. That was something that really kind of drove that part of the build, was putting that room in. Over here on the left, you're going to see we're going to put the bathroom in. And right now, I have this listed as a cemetery lot type. And that did come with obvious requirements. A bathroom or a toilet, I believe. I'm not sure. If I drop that list down, we'll see. But there were some requirements in there that I actually was working with that I don't have in the actual graveyard up above. So I do put them in down here, and that works just fine, because as long as it's a cemetery lot and it has those items, even if they're not accessible, say, by the general public, it still works. So just had to make sure I had the requirements, that's all. Loving this desk. This is, I believe, from Werewolves. Werewolves? I believe so. Love that desk. I'm going to also put in the listening station from Strangerville, because I thought that was appropriate here, especially with like the camera monitoring and the air seal to get in here. I thought having this little piece here has everything there that I think you would need to live underground. So definitely wanted to put that in there. And then putting another old table in, and all of the old, I think that's that garage kit. Love that stuff for these kind of builds. I hope you watched the first of our Halloween specials. Like I said, if you haven't, please go back and watch that. It'll make more sense with our underground lair here. And then hopefully you subscribe. I really would love it if you would join our cozy little family here. We have lots of fun things coming up. And I really would love it if you were here for those. All of us in our cozy little corner of The Sims. Putting these lights in, these are from Get to Work. I believe they're the jail lights. Also, I thought very appropriate here. Also with the toilet from that same pack. Also appropriate in this kind of situation, underground. I really love this bathroom. I think it turned out absolutely adorable. Love this shower. I wish I could use it everywhere. I just love the if you stop and you just look at the shower. I know I'm moving around so you can't really see it, but if you stop right and take a look at the tub has grime in the bottom of it. The shower head is hooked up with some kind of a green hose. The pipes are mismatched. The curtains around the whole thing are kind of like tarps. I just think the detail in this shower is awesome. Just absolutely awesome. And I really love to use this one. So putting in a blow-up mattress, I didn't think there was any way they were going to get a real bed down here. They had a hard time getting a lot of this other stuff down here, especially that couch, down them ladders, which is the access to this part of the build. So I thought a blow-up mattress, that would be appropriate because that you can just bring it down in the box, blow it up, and there you go. So putting some more, this to me looked like something they built down here. It's just some pieces of wood put together. It doesn't look very fancy, but you do need somewhere to hang your clothes. All of the things that I picked, and I love to build this way. I just imagine it being just, whatever you can get your hands on type of, survival situation. And I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Love these posters that look like they're worn and cracked and just, it's whatever they found. Like, if this is during a zombie apocalypse, I'm sure that, you're not finding brand new stuff. Stuff is ripped and torn and stuff like that. So I did change that one out. I don't know why I did. Maybe I was using it somewhere else. So putting these lockers in, this is that airlock area again. I can imagine, you want to take off anything that might have been exposed and change into some clean clothes before you go into the living quarters. Things like that. Just, how would you live? If you had to live underground, how would you live? Leave me a comment. Let me know. Is there something that I'm forgetting? Maybe something that you add to a build like this that I could have added here? That would be great because I love to build this way, and any hints and secrets, that helps me a lot. Make the next one, even better, which is what I'm all about. More clutter in the kitchen. I put a billboard up. Pots and pans. Not a lot of cupboards, so we hang them on the wall. I love cluttering in this type of situation because there's no such thing as too much clutter when you live in a place like this. I think the more clutter, the better. Because that's just the way you would be. I think that's how I would be living. If I had to go out and forage for things and I found things, I would grab up everything I could. So, although I am not a hoarder, I think in this situation, that might change me. I think I might become a hoarder. I think a lot of us would. So this is that storage pantry area, just throwing in some foodstuffs. Gotta have my boxes of cereal, of course, and, bottles of wine. And the more of those we have, the better. And I know I'm jumping all over the place. Now I'm putting shoes out in that area, putting magazines in the living area. My clutter, when I'm cluttering, I just roll through that clutter category and just start picking stuff out, and I know where I want it to go. So I'm not necessarily cluttering just the one room. I kind of just stay in this category and just clutter all of it up, which is what I'm doing here. So you're going to see me just flying around, putting all sorts of clutter in. Books. I think books. This pile of books. I thought that when I knew I was going to be putting that in here somewhere, but I think having a pile of books in a place like this, um, when you're not generating enough for the TV or for whatever, and you have to, you're going to turn to books to read. I would turn to books to read. That's my go-to, would be books. So I put that pile of books in there. Cleaning supplies, more pots and pans, just more clutter, stuff, picked up out while you're scavenging. I really like this build. And yes, when you download this, which you will be able to, once this goes live, you'll be able to download this cemetery, and you can either leave it as the cemetery that it is, which is how I'm going to be playing it. Like I said, with my Let's Play family, all 10 of my generations and all of their, you know, partners and siblings and things like that, they're all going to go in this cemetery. But you can change the lot type for this to residential. I did check that, and I did have Grandma here, and she did check everything. Everything works. And so you can use this as a residential, live here underground, which I think would be totally cool. I do know that when I had Grandma visiting here, of course, she can come down and use the bathroom and things like that. So I'm not sure if you use it strictly as a cemetery, how you can prevent that. I don't think you can, but they can come down here even if it is a cemetery. So, and that's okay. And that's okay with me. I have my story in my head, they're unwanted visitors that wandered in, and maybe we don't let them through the airlock. Just more clutter. I love clutter. Oh, I put a mouse in, which I think is absolutely perfect. They drive me insane, and I never use that little mouse hole in my builds. In fact, if or when I play in the apartments and there's mice in there, I swear the first thing I do is delete that little thing. I call it something else, but I'll just do thing for now. But I put it in here because I thought that was way fun for down here. So just so you know, there is a mouse in this house. Getting the ceilings done, and I thought that's awesome. That's the kind of ceiling you would have if you lived underground. So I really hope you liked our Halloween 2-part special, the graveyard, and the underground lair. And I hope you stick around for our next build. It's going to be great. We're going to be using a random wheel to help out with our next build. So remember, here at Grandma Sims, keep it creative, keep it cozy, and I'll see you for the next build.